as long as certain people from certain area in this country do not have the equal opportunity or do not feel what it is to be president, there will continue to be this mistrust and a sense of injustice. That is without a doubt. And while democracy is fair, it's simply the best option we have, but not the fairest. So there are certain regions that by population are at an advantage. So while not asking we discard this, I think it needs to take a lot of introspection. Mayabon over there made a point. If you take this to the North Central, sir, who will it be for? Is it the Nupe people, the brilliant Ibibio people, the Igala people? In my little experience in Nigeria, whenever you do this, every tribe in every state will also come out and say it's their turn. Merit prevails, sir. I think part of the reason why this sense of injustice continues to go on is because of the failure of governance, the failure of social equity. So, Mr. Speaker, I implore that we do not set a dangerous precedent and put it in the Constitution without due diligence, which I'm sure the Constitutional Review Committee will do so. But while it tackles injustice, I must agree with the previous speaker. This could really set us back. And finally, unfortunately, we are but human beings. What happens in the event of death? May God bless the soul of President Umar Musa Yar'Adua. But I guess he passed away at a time when it was quote unquote the time of the North. And the vice president comes in. Is it actually fair to ask a vice president to step down in the event of the unfortunate occurring? I think we should still adhere to good governance and provide our people.
We are under democracy. And democracy, in my own opinion, is about healthy competition. We should not please allow sentiment to be part of the process of how we govern the country. By the time we start to include the clauses of zoning, that means at a point in time, every part of this country will start to look at it that, look, it is either me or you, or not you or not me. Sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is Nigeria that belongs to everybody. Everybody should be given the right to stand and contest for this office of the president at any point in time.
I think that the basic problem is that the Western democratic liberal model has failed Nigeria. As you know, we've worked on a new constitutional process for 25 years, since 2000, and nothing. I think it's time to rethink and reimagine our democratic experience. It's not working. It's not inclusive, it's divisive, it's full of fighting, it's a winner-take-all. People want power, nobody wants to be in the opposition. You see the opposition people all jumping into the APC. The process is not working. So personally, I would advocate something homegrown, autochthonous, what I call consociational democracy, where we build our institutional democracy around our institutions. I am a very strong person for finding a role for traditional rulers. King Charles is the constitutional monarch of the United Kingdom, and he has a role to play. He's going to Canada. He's playing a role in the trade process. He's got a good deal with Trump. So I think our constitutional process should include the traditional rulers. Quite in what way, I'm not sure. We ought to stop this thing about winner take all. That's the problem. I will recommend the Belgian model, where the Walloons and the Flemings are different people, but they've come to an arrangement whereby there's inclusion. So whatever process we want to adopt, the first point would be to discard the Western democratic liberal model. It's not working. The second point I want to make is to also discard the Western liberal economic model. It's something that enables only a few to extract. If return on capital exceeds return on development, why would anybody want to develop Nigeria? So these are the two broad points I think we need to take into account in reimagining a new Nigerian experiment. Otherwise, I started at 29. I keep saying this. Now I'm 72. So you, Rufai, I know you're a young man. 20 years down the line, you'll be saying the same thing. So if something hasn't worked for all this time? Is it not time we think through a process? My final point would be, let us stop this nonsense about saying that the APC wants Nigeria to be a one-party state. It's the opposition. It's the opposition. If a guy comes to my wife and takes her away, who would I blame? The guy or my wife? So I don't blame the APC. They want to win power. And the reason why this is so is because it's a winner-take-all. Nigeria is not at the point where we can afford this winner-take-all process. We must include. How that will be done is beyond my own competence. But I think that those are the building blocks for a new Nigeria.
Okay, since you're speaking on inclusivity, I would like to get your thoughts on this issue of rotational presidency, because the conversation is that the bill has been rejected that proposes that the presidency should rotate around all of the geopolitical zones. And won't this be a solution to cure some of the marginalization that we see many groups speak of? Other people are saying that, well, this will institutionalize mediocrity. Where do you stand when it comes to the rotational presidency?
It's part of the element of constitutional democracy. It happens in Belgium. So in Belgium, there are two distinct ethnic and linguistic groups, the Walloons and the Flemings, and they share power, they rotate it. So if you do that here, and you include people, I know that I'm from the Southeast, and that I have a process, a voice in what plays out in the executive system, then I don't feel as if I'm a loser. But right now, this winner-take-all thing, it's still doing us severe damage. So inclusivity needs to be properly constitutionalized. You recall that the late Chief Dr. Ekweme was the one who first proposed the 6 regions. I proposed 8, creating a middle belt, and so that's 7, and creating something out of the South-South, 8. How that will work is not for me to say on this short program, but that's the building block for Nigeria. And the reason is clear, the evidence is clear. Why not be moving forward? Don't you see Trump roaming around the Middle East, roaming around the Arabian Peninsula? And I say, but these are also Muslims. How are they so advanced? They don't have democracy. China doesn't have democracy. Yet they're advanced. Then we pretend that we have Western liberal democracy imposed on us, and we're going nowhere. So it's time to reimagine the process on the grounds that the patient has been in the hospital and is not recovering. So let's jettison this nonsense about the Western model, which they have imposed. Let's jettison it. Even the Western democratic model is failing in America, with Trump causing problems everywhere. So we need to build on something that is local to us, that works. And what is local to us that works is inclusion. If everybody feels that they are part of the lunch, I'm not talking about corrupt lunch, I'm part of the power sharing, then we can move forward. And we can develop Nigeria in the way that, I was so ashamed to see small countries like Qatar, UAE, Abu Dhabi, Trump romping around the whole place, feeling good. And here we are in a rotten country with all the resources we have. We've got to put our best foot forward, and we're not doing that now under this Western liberal democratic process.
Okay, looking at the state of the democracy in Nigeria today, I think one component that we can also talk about is this concept of voting and voter apathy. That's why in the House of Representatives they're looking at making voting mandatory. What are your thoughts on there? Because I think that if we're looking at the reasons why people may be hesitant to vote, it could speak to your point about inclusivity or the lack thereof, or a democratic system that doesn't actually work. So what are your thoughts on making voting mandatory? Do you think that's something that Nigeria should be focusing on right now?
Absolutely not. How can you make voting mandatory? Voting will be a process that will animate Nigerians if they see something, if there's a return. So you gotta make it mandatory, pass a law. Nobody's gonna come out. You make voting attractive by promising people dividends of democracy. That's what makes people come out. But if it's so apathetic, people have this idea that every 4 years we have formal democracy and people are asked to vote and they don't come out because they don't get anything. They don't get anything. Look at me here at 72. I haven't got a dime, no advantage from the government of Nigeria. Why would I want to vote? Why should I want to vote? If it comes to the elections coming in Anambra in November, then I'll be keen to live here to go to Anambra to vote. Why? What do I get? So there's the apathy caused by a failure of development, by a failure of governance, by a complete breakdown. That's what's causing it.
Two questions, sir. Number one, is it with these morally bankrupt politicians and traditional rulers, you think we can get it right? Politicians that you know will manipulate whatever system of rotation that is there, where elections are challenged in the first place, and afterwards, once the politicians emerge, we will now decide and say it's the will of God and keep deceiving ourselves when we should call a spade a spade. People will steal elections in this country, they'll tell you to tell them it's the will of God. And is it with traditional rulers, with scandals everywhere? I'm not saying they've not been an agent of good in some instances, but we see the scandal and the flamboyance of traditional rulers. Is this the cocktail we want?
No, I agree, Rufai. We're in a very, bad way at a point of despair. But you see, we've got to do it. We have to do a diagnosis. There's no one right answer. But the diagnosis that I see right now is that Western liberal democracy is failing us. That's the first conceptual issue to put on the table. Can we continue with this winner-take-all, first-past-the-post process? On the evidence, I would say no. Then the question is, if that is agreed, and I think it's agreed, if you ask Nigerians, they would say, well, I'm feeling the effect of democracy. The question would then be, what do? We have to do something. So what I'm proposing is to say this model has failed. Do we have to look into other models? And I've told you that I've looked into the model of cooperative federalism. I've looked at consociational democracy. I've looked at autochthonous democracy. And I don't pretend that all will be well simply by dropping the Western model and adapting this. But the question is, why do we have such levels of corruption? It's because of what we find in the book, Why Nations Fail. If you have an extractive process whereby very few take everything, the others are going to be disgruntled. And how are these very few able to do so? By corrupting voters, by corrupting the traditional rulers. But if we are all in the table, in the game, if we're all holding cards, then it will remove the incentive to be corrupt. That's just a theory I have. But one thing I'm very clear about, the Western liberal model does not work. I mean, not that I'm proposing that Nigeria should cease to be a democratic country. But why is China working? Is it a democracy? Why is it working? Why are people happy with them? In spite of the fact that they also have their problems.
Are people happy?
Why is the Arabian Peninsula working?
Are people happy?
Do they have democracy?
Are people happy?
Who?
In China.
There. Where?
In China? In the Middle East? Are people happy?
China?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Generally, people are happier in China than Nigeria. Absolutely.
Well, sir, I mean,
there are human rights problems in China, obviously.
if we look at the laws in China, they're not allowed to express their displeasure. So, they have to say they're happy. Very quickly, we just have 30 seconds. I appreciate your commentary and your critique of the Western liberal democracy. My question is, if we are to say, let's look at something that's more traditionally African in nature. Traditional African hierarchy was more about inheritance. It was more about bloodline. There was no real consideration for meritocracy. Are you saying that merit is something that can be sacrificed to please the larger population of people and make them feel a part of the project? Very quickly, sir.
I'm simply saying that don't forget that Nigeria is an extremely young country and that Nigeria was essentially clobbered together by the West. And the influence of our traditional rulers still remain very, very valid. To the extent to which we want to involve them in the process will be a subject of debate. I'm not suggesting that they will come in and become, the executive. But if other countries have done it, effectively in the Western world, the United Kingdom has had a monarch, 9 different ruling dynasties for 1,000 years. And it has worked in the context of the Westminster system. So as we create something, as we begin to formulate something, what that something will be, I cannot tell. But my point is the Western model has not worked. And should we continue with the Western model? I'm sure all of you in the studio will agree that things are not working. So the issue would simply be, do we just simply every 4 years we have these elections and we all complain, now APC is being accused, everybody is jumping into APC. What are the causes of these problems? That's the issue that should conceptually challenge us. And I've given one broad answer, which needs to be further interrogated.
Welcome back, my people. As you can see, now don't see the problem we say we dey inside this country called Nigeria. Now no say okay, we dey face many challenges for inside this country, and although let us just break into this rotational presidency of a thing. You know say okay, all these northern people they don't dey against rotational presidency for now. But I don't know why the first guy, this Rufai Pikin, I don't know why them dey against rotational presidency. I mean all these northern people. Why they dey against rotational presidency today is that okay, let me just tell you guys, maybe say I don't understand all these things that they are trying to do. They are trying to like cover it up from now so that okay, whenever any northern people climb power, how much you go take, like it go take for them. Now why be say okay they dey against rotational presidency for now be that because them that they think can say okay the next presidential election will be say it dey come. If you be say okay now northern person now you go come win. Now why be say okay that they dey against rotational presidency for now be that this rotational presidency will be say that they dey against, they are doing it for their own selfish interest. So no be say okay that they do it for because of all this Tinubu, this one and that one, all these things they are doing it for their own benefits. That's what they are doing. But we know how politics is. Everyone, all of them just they do their own now. You know how this government they so nobody like want make power come in your own hand, make power not last for your own hand, and nobody want make power they rotate. Now why all these northern people just they against rotational presidency? They are not even doing this in favor of the current administration. Now they are doing it because for their own future use. That is their plan. So we know their plan. So as for me, the only thing we see go fit work for inside this country, though rotational presidency it go work so that okay we go know how far, we go know how this country, you will know people who say that they spoil our country. Now that rotational presidency now you go fit help this country, now you go fit carry this country go off small. You will be say the years now. What do you have to say about this matter? I beg you have anything we say you want to talk concerning this matter. I beg when you drop on for inside comment section. And also if today is the first time here, please kindly like our video, share and subscribe. Thank you.